The biggest change to announce about my training this week is that I hired a running coach. And you might be thinking, what is a running coach, or those exist? Yes, they do. Welcome back to my week 2 update, bariatric half marathon training. Here we are. Week 2 has been much more successful than week 1. I don't think I ran more miles in week 2, but there were some really good things that happened this week. So you are going to want to stay tuned to this video so I can give you all of the good updates. All right, pros for week 2. I was home all week. So that was number one. I didn't travel. I didn't go anywhere. I was home in my routine with all of my regular stuff. I also was working out in very, very high heat. So I bought a couple of things this week that are hopefully going to help me with my training. Number one, I bought some knee sleeves, which of course, obviously are to help with knee pain or knee soreness and recovery. I'll show you those in a different video. I also purchased some headbands that will help keep the sweat from running in my eyes when I'm training. Those are going to be tremendously helpful because it has been so hot already. And I purchased some running socks, which I actually love. I'm very glad that I love them because the price tag on them about made me choke when I went to buy them. I'm talking like $18 for one single pair of socks. And I'm definitely the girl that would go to Famous Footwear and get the packs of socks that are $5 for like 5 or 6 pairs of socks. So $18 for a single pair of socks was a lot for me. And I think I placed an order of like $100 worth of socks. I will say that they have been already well worth the expense. So those were some purchases I made to just improve my training and make me feel better. I also ran in a different style of shoes this week. So I kind of have been pushing myself to just test some different things this week. And I did my long run in a different style of shoe. And actually, I loved it. So we'll come back to that as well. Now, the biggest change to announce about my training this week is that I hired a running coach. And you might be thinking, what is a running coach, or those exist? Yes, they do. Or you might be thinking, like, why would you hire a running coach? What do they do for you? Here's the thing, I hired a bariatric running coach, somebody who has had the same bariatric surgery as me, is also a VSG patient, and has ran numerous marathons, half marathons, all the things. So this person truly specializes in this. And because they've had the same surgery that I have had, I feel very confident in their ability to support me. Here is what ultimately led me to make the decision to hire a running coach. Number one, I had a printed out training plan, which you could find them on the internet. And if you want to know if there's any that I would specifically recommend on the internet, feel free to leave me a comment and I'll let you know. But I did have a printed out plan, and I had found that I just wasn't motivated by a generic printed out plan. I kind of looked at it and was like, yeah, this is what it says for the week, but like I can just do it tomorrow. So the buy-in was lacking a little bit. And the other thing that was happening is that as a bariatric patient, I felt like, and still feel like, I was coming up against hurdles that don't exist to non-bariatric athletes. So things like hydrating, as a VSG patient, I can't drink water like the average runner drinks water. They can guzzle a bottle of water. I will never be able to do that. So my ability to stay hydrated and make sure I'm replenishing my electrolytes and I'm doing the best that I can to serve the needs of my body when I'm running, especially in high heats, was very hard. I didn't feel like I was rehydrating adequately. And then the other thing that would sometimes happen is I would notice if I ate more carbs the day before, I would run way better. But as a VSG patient, getting carbs in can be very, very hard because they fill your stomach up really quickly and you need to fill your stomach with protein. So I was struggling in the balance of like, this is what I'm burning, this is the level of physical activity that I'm doing, and this is what I need to eat and do to sustain that. And I just was having a hard time finding the middle ground. And also, I felt like race day, I was going to encounter some very unique challenges that are not common to average runners. Same things, fueling, hydrating, all of this stuff like that. And I just needed that extra level of support and guidance. So I started working with a bariatric running coach, and I've been very happy with the process so far. So I will leave his information down in the video description so you could check him out. His name is Corey Queen, and he's very, very cool. I think if you're interested at all in doing what I'm doing, you would also love him. So he has given me some great guidance. One of the things that he has recommended that I am following up on is for me to use my longer run days in my training session as like my test runs, like testing out what works for me as far as hydrating, fueling, energy gels, or something that's different than energy gels, what works for me. And then in doing so, that is also what led me to kind of try out one of my other pairs of shoes. So I always run in Brooks, and I have several different styles of Brooks, but I always grab my Adrenalins. And I was talking to one of my friends recently who has been running for a very long time. She's actually who introduced me to my running coach because she is also a running coach. And we were just talking about shoes, and I was talking about how I always grab my Adrenalins. And then I went to start to kind of look at what the other styles were that I owned. And I really wanted to see what it would feel like to run in my Rebel 6 for one of my longer runs. And it felt great. And I think part of it is that I need to replace my Adrenalins. They're about a year and a half old, and I think they've seen a lot of mileage because they are my most used shoe. But the Rebel 6s felt super good. So I think I'm going to do a few more runs in those just to kind of keep testing it out. All right, so we are going to talk about some of the workouts that I did this week. I like to kind of share with you how it's going for transparency. This one, I did 2 different runs back to back. If you haven't watched my week 1 training video, the reason I do that is just kind of a mind trick to make myself think that I don't have to run 5 miles all in one go. I'll break it up into 2.5 mile runs, and then I do one and I'm like, oh, that was easy. I can just do another one. The 5 feels like a lot to get through. So I did a 2.5 mile runs. First one actually was 2.72 miles. And for that run, I maintained a pace of 11 minutes, 3 seconds per mile on average. I'm okay with that, but I am working with my running coach on deciding whether that is a true race pace for me. I think I'm selling myself short a little bit. I think I'm settling at that pace because it's very easy and I know that I can sustain it and not feel super fatigued or like I just did the most work I've ever done in my life at the end of it. Like it's very easy for me to sustain that pace. It's conversational. I'm not winded. I end it and I feel like I can go do something. But I think I'm selling myself short. I think I have more gas in the tank and I'm just too scared to use it. So that is something that I'm working on with my running coach. Side note, in real life, I never have more gas in the tank. I am the woman driving on E. Drives my husband nuts. But if you get him, there's never gas in my car. Just know that. But gas in my running fuel tank, I preserve that really well. I keep it full. So anyway, I think I'm selling myself short on my pace. So working on that. The second run that I did that day, 2.47 miles. The lower pace, I was at 12:17 average for that one. This was the first of the 2, which the pace is always slower on that because my warm up is included in the pacing. And I usually do at least 5 minutes of warm up drills. I find that it really helps me just make sure that everything in my body feels good once I start running. If I just jump straight into it, things just, they're kind of tight and they hurt and they're sore. So I do not recommend that. So that was one day. Another run that I did this week was 2.7 miles. So closing in on that 5K. I really try to hit a 5K in under 30 minutes, like in any run that I do. Didn't quite hit it this day, but that's okay. My average pace in this run was 11 minutes, 7 seconds, with an average pace of 5.4 miles per hour, which again, I'm okay with. That's my easy conversational pace that I'm very comfortable with. But I want to start seeing runs push beyond that pace in my training. So hopefully, with my running coach, we're going to start to see some of that. All right, these next two back to back runs again, because that's kind of my trick. First one, 2.44 miles. My pace was very slow. This, I think, was the first run that I did back home when we came back from vacation. So I was feeling a bit fatigued. I had been off of my routine. My sleep schedule was crazy. So the pace was much lower this day. Pace was 12 minutes, 18 seconds per mile, or 4.9 on the tread, which is very slow for me. My other run that day was just a solid flat 5 miles an hour on the tread, 1.67 miles with a 12:03 minute mile. Very slow. So I was struggling a bit in that run, and that's okay. So, one thing I'm working on going into next week, number one, is to stop just kind of selling myself short at that 5.4 ish pace and really start to push beyond that and see what I can do. Building in more strength training because my running coach says so. I am definitely one to skip strength day. I am working on keeping log of hydration, feeling how all of that is going. And I am also continuing to try out many running socks, different styles of running shoes, and really just log what's feeling good for myself. So, really excited to move into week 3. I think I'm going to feel a lot more success and non-success in the sense of like, yay, everything is successful and great. Not like that, but success also in the struggle, right? So things that are hard and pushing myself and making it more challenging. So I'm really excited and looking forward to that in the next week. And hopefully I'll have a really cool update for you a week from now. So I will see you then. I am probably on the tread, but would love to chat with you. So if you have any questions, drop them in the comments and I'll get back to you as soon.